we find ourselves in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of the show Deen and Dunya. My name is Rahma Mustafa Ghani, and as usual, I'm going to be your host. So I have with me today in the studio a special guest. She is the CEO of Mumtaz Wellness Center. Also, she is a therapist and also a psychologist. So I introduce to you Mrs. Hawa Bello. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Then I have with me in the studio another beautiful sister. You know her, Halima Adiswana.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Okay, so as you know, this is a show where we talk about deep and important issues concerning women. And we try our best all the time to bring topics, we discuss about them and try to find solutions. So today we have for you another interesting topic, which is intoxicants, anklets, and piercings. So, generally, these things are some of the things that people in our generation now find themselves in. And most times they might say it's just the trend, so I'll just do it, or maybe influence from friends, or different reasons. So, in Islam, we have like 4 sources of Sharia where some of the things are clearly stated in the Quran or in the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. While sometimes some things might not be stated, and then the ulama now would do consensus, which is the ijma, and then they can find rulings for some of the things. Then sometimes you might see that they compare one thing to another, which is clearly stated in the Quran or Sunnah, and then they might take the rulings to be the same. So now generally, whatever case it is, Allah says, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not take yourselves and throw yourselves into destructions with your own hands. So now, basically about these things that we're going to talk about, intoxicants, anklets, and piercings, the scholars now establish some criteria on the prohibition of these things, where it's maybe because it's going to be harmful to your health or to other people's health, or it can be a waste of money, or it's going to cloud your mind, or it's just going to cause things that it's going to take you out of your senses. So that's why they establish these criteria to know that, okay, this is right, while this is not right, while some of them are not even mentioned in the Quran. So, but what can you say about these things?
Okay, even though initially when I heard the topic I was wondering what is the correlation between intoxicants, piercing and anklets, because they are not really of the same thing. They are, they have their own different worlds. So I think because of that, I'm going to pick them one after the other. So if you ask me, what do I see about intoxicants? Although intoxicants is like a general name for a whole lot of things that intoxicate individuals, things that affect their psychology, things that are psychoactive.
Yes.
So intoxicants are what we call psychoactive. That is, they change some things in your brain that makes you behave differently than normal. So those are intoxicants. And then anklets, just like the name states, is when you decorate your leg with any kind of jewelry or something like that. And then piercing, when you pierce any part of your body with any kind of jewelry and all that. So those are, those 3 things. Now, let's talk a little bit about intoxicants, okay? So, of course, there are 1001 different types of intoxicants. Anything that is psychoactive, will be placed under that kind of intoxicant kind of label. So, of course, we have the normal alcohol people take.
Yes.
We have some concussions that people mix together, the popular science student kind of thing. You mix this and put that and put that. Some things naturally on their own are not intoxicants.
Yes.
So, for example, Maggi on its own, if you eat it from now till tomorrow, will not intoxicate you. It's a normal thing to cook. La casera, if you drink it normally without mixing it with anything, it will intoxicate you. You're fine. But when you now mix some things together, they make some kind of chemical reaction inside them that will now make it lead to, intoxicating people. So if you mix lacasera with some other things, for example, you can get intoxicated. The same way if you mix Maggi with some other things, even your normal Coca-Cola.
Yes.
So although we will not place these things under intoxicants, but we know for a fact that if you mix them with something else, they can intoxicate you. There's also something that does have the intoxicating ability, although you have to take it in really, really large quantity. That a lot of people don't really know so much about it, nutmeg. Yeah, so if you take it in...
What's your ruling about that?
Yeah, so like in Saudi Arabia, for example, you're not allowed to sell nutmeg ordinarily. Yeah, because they classify it under intoxicant. Although using it in small doses that people generally do use it, it doesn't. But because it has been classified under intoxicants, there's a ruling that says it shouldn't be sold or used. So some people would generally not use it. So there are a whole lot of things, except, we can't have an exhaustive list of intoxicants. There are some drugs that you would ordinarily use and then it will intoxicate you, even though they are normal medications that you would use normally for a normal health problem. Exactly, like your normal cough syrup, like your normal sleeping medications, but when you misuse these drugs, we call them misuse because you're not really using them for what they were meant to be used for. So for example, codeine, a cough syrup, so maybe Benylin with codeine, for example, is supposed to be used 5 ml morning, afternoon and night, for example, for cough. And then you happen not to have cough and you decide to take 30 ml morning, afternoon and night. You are not using it for what it was meant to be used for, and you are not using it at the dosage that is supposed to be prescribed for you. So at that point it's misuse. And you also have the intoxicating ability that is a side effect. Ordinarily, some people will use 5 ml of Benylin with codeine and they will feel drowsy all day. So one of the rules is not to use cough syrup that has that constituent in it and drive, or use it and use machinery, because they know that it has a side effect of being drowsy. So something ordinarily that will make you drowsy, you now take them in large doses, it automatically changes the whole system.
And actually brings me to the concept of people saying intoxicants are things that only affect your mental or physical control of the senses. Because like you're saying, this codeine now, when people say they only take it as depressants, just want to not feel good,
to calm them down.
Exactly, calm their mind. So they feel like, well, that's not supposed to be a drug or something. It's just for me to relax, for me to have a good sleep, a longer sleep. But they're actually intoxicants.
Yeah, I hear people say that actually. However, it's a drug.
Yes.
Whether it's a depressant, whether it's it hallucinates you, whatever it is that it does, is still a psychoactive drug. Anything that would work on your
Mental and physical
that would make it change its activity. So let me go a little bit deeper. In the brain we have neurotransmitters. So these neurotransmitters are the things that they're like messengers. We call them like messengers. So they're the ones which will tell one part of the body, what part of the brain what to do and what not to do. So we have the common ones that people would usually hear about is the dopamine, the serotonin, and all that, the GABA and all that. Now, these neurotransmitters, there's a normal quantity that you would find normally in the brain when you do normal things. So for example, if you eat food and the food is very, very nice, as in you like the food, your brain will release some neurotransmitters to let you feel that sensation of, oh, this food is yummy. And I going to release it, So you feel that happy state. Now there are some things that you also do that it will reduce the state you feel, So when people now, this is activity going on in the brain normally, okay? It's a normal activity going on. Now when you take something to now either enhance this activity or reduce this activity.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, there's a psychoactive activity that is happening in the brain. And so if I take codeine and I said is a depressant, okay, I'm actually reducing something that is normally supposed to be found in the brain at that particular point.
Yes.
So I'm blocking some neurotransmitters from doing their work, or I am releasing some neurotransmitters to do their work excessively. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So
Yes.
it's still a drug. It's still a psychoactive drug because it's having an effect in the brain. You know, so any of those will be deceiving ourselves. So okay, now let's bring the same thing to alcohol. Alcohol ordinarily is an antidepressant.
Okay.
Wine.
Did you know that?
Yes, wine.
You know, so it's supposed to take. You're supposed to take it and then feel. That's why you hear some people say, "Well, I want to forget all my worries and my sorrows."
Yes.
Exactly. So they will take alcohol. Some people will not be able to sleep if they don't take alcohol because they need it to put them in that depressed state. That's why we call it an antidepressant. That's why we call it a depressant, not antidepressant. Antidepressant is medication for depression. Sorry. So that's why we call it a depressant because it will ordinarily make you feel that calm, lucid kind of thing, and you also say that's why some people, when they are drugged, they lose control of their mouths.
Just say
No inhibition. The inhibition they would ordinarily have to say, you kiniko. When they
can't
because
control it.
they can't control it because it has put them in that, like she said, floating state. You know. So would you now say that alcohol is not an intoxicant because it's a depressant?
well, it is. But another thing that makes people want to kind of give excuses for drugs is because some of them were not specified in the Quran. I mean, codeine is not in the Quran. What about the other ones? There are many other ones apart from alcohol, which was strictly stated.
Yeah. Now,
but not stated in the Quran.
now talking about
Cigarettes, you find this very I won't say a particular group of people in Nigeria, but then these people are very believing in the Quran. They follow it like everything, but then when it comes to the cigarette part, they're like, well, it's not in the Quran, it's not supposed to be a drug, it's just smoke. So it should be allowed. I think you actually talk about these things not being mentioned in the Quran. And
I was actually going to tell her about it. So now, talking about the Islamic perspective, clearly the one that was mentioned in the Quran is al-khamr, the alcohol. So, but then, even that one, we know that it's not easy to get addicted to something and then just get out of it.
Yes.
So that's why Allah also followed some phases or steps in banning alcohol. So he mentions in the Quran. Well, at first he just said people have been asking the Prophet about gambling and alcohol. He said يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر. Then but he said, even though there is benefit in it, but then the harm is more than the benefit, right? So then the second phase was when one imam was leading prayer, but then he was under the influence of alcohol, and then he couldn't even read the Quran properly.
Yes.
So then Allah still revealed another verse, and he said, do not approach prayer when you're under the influence of alcohol.
Yes.
Then the third phase was when, after the second one, people now, reduce taking alcohol, and then maybe it's going to be after Isha prayer, but then they sit in groups, and they'll be talking, and they'll be doing poetry between themselves.
Yes, the Arabs actually value alcohol. They even do poetry about
Exactly. So one of them now offended another from a different tribe, and they started having a lot of chaos, and someone was hit and all that, and then totally now Allah banned alcohol. Yes, so scholars say the word intoxicant or alcohol is just like a general word for anything that covers your mind or takes you out of your senses. So it doesn't matter if it is a drug or anything. But for drugs, they are not mentioned. That's why I mentioned ijma or qiyas.
Yes.
So, but even back then, some of these things like hemp, like cannabis, like poppy, they were used as medicinal stuff.
Yes.
For therapeutic purposes. We have our guest, she might tell us about that. So I know that's what, yeah, she said some people take it as an excuse to take all these things like drugs. And even that time, all of these things like hemp were actually eaten and not smoked. So maybe I don't know if that is the difference while people get intoxicated.
You see, alhamdulillah that you started with the sources of Sharia law. Okay. And even though in the Quran, what was specifically talked about, which a lot of people refer to alcohol, is, you know, intoxicants in that sense. But like you said, we have all the sources of law. We have the hadith, we have the hijmah, you know. Now, when you were mentioning the intro, you said scholars say people shouldn't use something if it is detrimental to your health. Now, one of the rules in the Quran is that you should not commit suicide. If you commit suicide, we all know the complication. You should not use your hand to put yourself in ruin.
Yes.
You should not use your hand to intentionally destroy yourself. If it's unintentional, Allah sees the mind, and then He can always overlook all these things.
Yes.
But when it is intentional, then there is a problem. Now, on the face of it, okay, so there's something we say that if cigarettes was first found now, as in they've not found cigarette before, they've not found tobacco before, nicotine has never been found before, so they just found it now. With the level of education that's available now for people to be able to know the constituents of something, if they just found cigarette now, it will be banned immediately. Because we now know the harmful effects of nicotine, which is the main ingredient that is found in cigarettes.
Yes, according to a research I was doing, there's this Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. He referred to as the wines as khamr, and then these other smokes, the cigarettes, the hemp, and all of that as hashish. He said the khamr actually does something to your senses and your religion, but worse than that is what the hashish does to you, because it actually destroys your body alongside destroying your religion.
Exactly. So, in fact, when I tell people that you know that cigarette is one of the worst drugs you can take, they're like, And I say yes. Because cigarette does not only destroy one part of your body. Cigarette destroys every single organ in your body. When you smoke, when you puff, you are unintentionally killing yourself. Right. Okay? So even though it's not an intoxicant in the sense of what alcohol will do, it's still a psychoactive drug because it will still do something in the brain. That is why it becomes addictive anyway. You can only get addicted to something that does something to you in your brain. If it's only in your body, you may not want to.
But now people hide behind the fact that shisha and the rest have flavors and it's not like cigarettes, so they feel it's okay.
That was why I said nicotine, which is the main active ingredient in cigarettes, is the problem. This same nicotine is found in shisha. In fact, in more higher concentration in some flavors. Just like your pen, or people take e-cigarettes. In the form of pen. That even has some of the brands anyway, has more nicotine in it than your usual cigarette stick. Okay, so because that nicotine, which is the main problem, is found in all these things, that is why we are against the fact that people will use that as an alternative for cigarettes or other things, because it's like you're jumping from frying pan to fire pan. You are leaving one for another kind of addiction.
It's clearly stated that you should abstain from anything that will cost you.
Exactly, that will cost you harm. You see, now with the progress in science, you can actually look at the lungs of someone who is smoking cigarette and look at the lungs of someone who is not smoking and see the big difference. And you can see, your lung function is not exactly. I don't know how to. Is it consciously or unconsciously killing yourself?
Yes.
You can open the stomach of someone who does cigarettes and open the stomach of someone who doesn't see cigarettes, and you see the difference. You know. So even though these things were not mentioned categorically, we can understand the implication now. In those days when people didn't even know, you could ignore their ignorance, if that makes sense. But now that we all know, you know, we know that this is not something we can ignore. And so it's a whole lot of other drugs that you mentioned. These things destroy your body. This thing destroys your soul. This thing destroys your mind. It destroys you spiritually. It destroys you. You know, the thing is, one of the criteria that we use to even look to test addiction is the way it affects your social relationship. So it destroys your family, it destroys your children, it destroys your friends. You know, it destroys those relationships.
Which are very beneficial to you.
Why would one want to continue to do that?
Now this is getting interesting. Dear viewers, it's still the show Deen and Dunya, and the topic is intoxicants, anklets, and piercings. We'll now take a short break and we'll be back inshallah. Stay tuned.
In the 21st century, you are not limited by your geographic location. With an effective use of media and the internet, you can speak to billions of potential customers at a go. Invest in advert and broadcast to generate brand loyalty and company traffic. iMedia Communications is here to help you produce and broadcast promotional videos for your businesses fashioned just for you. We offer services in video production to clients from startups to businesses, NGOs, and government agencies with a focus on advertising, marketing, and documenting. Contact us today to keep your business at the top of your customers' mind, attract new people, and keep them up to date on your products and services. We are at the forefront of event coverage and live stream of your special occasions. When you think of video production and live stream, think iMedia. Contact us at www.imedianigeria.net or info@imedianigeria.net or dial 0810-450-8155 or 0816-681-5377. At iMedia Communications, we don't give excuses. We simply get the job done in style.
Dear viewers, it's still the show Deen and Dunya, and the topic is intoxicants, anklets, and piercings. So we were talking about intoxicants. Now let's move to anklets and piercings. So, you know, these things actually, even the rulings in Islam are not straightforward. Yeah, so, but then some scholars took a verse from the Quran that says, was actually talking about women, and it says, وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَ بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ لِيُعْلَمَ مَا يُخْفِينَ مِنْ زِينَتِهِنَّ, that they shouldn't stamp their feet so that whatever they're wearing of adornment is going to be revealed. So that was talking about maybe some accessories like anklets, maybe some people wear one or two, or actually it makes sounds. And so, but some of the scholars said the ruling is based on the action, that is the sound, and not the anklet in particular. But then in some societies, it's considered that these things are used by people who are immoral or evildoers and all that, and so that's why they say it's prohibited. Or if the purpose with which you use it for is maybe it's going to expose your aura, or someone's going to see your aura, it's not, or it's for non-mahram, not for your husband or something, so they feel it's haram. So what can you say about that?
Interesting. Okay, anklets and piercings. Taken from the Quran verse of, you know, do not display your adornments and all. And then, just like you have said, the noise and all. I personally don't see the piercings and the anklets as the problem.
Okay.
I see the showing of it to the public as the problem. Okay? So there are 1001 anklets you can wear that doesn't make noise. Beads are worn as anklets and they don't make any noise. And then you're wearing your socks, You're wearing your clothing that is covering everything. No one knows you are putting an anklet except your family. So if you can actually protect the haram parts, which is what you have mentioned on, exposing it to non-more haram, making a show of it that everybody knows you're wearing this thing by stamping or by showing people like, look at my leg or look at my nose.
Because actually during the Jahiliyyah period, women actually do that to call men's attention.
Exactly. So, but now, knowing that you're not going to be doing that, women are allowed to beautify themselves as they want. Okay? But they should make sure that they fulfill the rules and regulations that do not make them go outside of the boundaries. So for me, like for example, if you use one link chain, it won't make noise. If you use beads, it won't make noise. Whatever it is you use, as far as it's concealed and it's only your family that can say it, it's fine. Now for piercing, there's another rule that comes in, which you didn't mention, is also that not to put yourself in harm way. There's some kind of piercings that I see and I'm wondering, how did you do that? What did you have to go under anesthesia to get that done? Like, I'm sure you went through surgery or something. You see, when people pierce,
their tongue,
actually some researches show that even just the lips or the tongue, there is negative effect, health effect.
Exactly. So if it's not properly done, you could go into you could get infected, you could have abscess and all that. So for me, I'm like, well, no matter the beauty, would you want to put yourself into so much pain and trauma and all? But every action shall be judged according to intention. If your intention is right by Allah, Allah is the only one who can judge. Now, if your intention is not right by Him, Allah is the only one that can judge, But whatever piercing you're doing, since it's an adornment, since it's a beautification, make sure that you don't kind of expose it to people who are not supposed to see it. Whether it's ear piercing, nose piercing, belly button, all sorts of ones that are not so painful, people. So for me, I don't see anklets and piercings as a problem, except if, like I said, you go outside of those rules. And except I've not come across any ruling that it's bam, you can't use it at all. I've not seen.
But that's why they say it's normal. You can do it in the normal places, like the ears, the nose, because even during the time of the Prophet, women normally do that. So, but then they actually said, okay, if it is going to harm you, or if you're going to imitate the evildoers or the kuffar and all that,
but I think that's where intention comes in, because if I even piercing ears.
More than the act of doing it, it is the
it's the intention,
actions and intent. What you do with it.
Exactly.
I mean, calling men's attention with it is already bad. Or maybe you want to represent the
particular hippie hop kind of
yes. So
or making a fashion statement.
It's
so it's about the intention.
Actions and intention. And again, I think it's overdoing it too should actually be talked about, because you see some people who have pierced the whole ears. I mean, you can pierce one or two, but why do you have to go like all round? Then you see nose piercings, you see the tongue, you see here. At the end of the day, it does. I mean, it's supposed to be for adornment. At the end of the day, you're looking like a weird person.
You see, when you were saying it, I was smiling because the question I'll ask is, who dictates when it's too much? When it's too much is a subjective thing. Having only one may be too much for me.
Okay.
And it's okay for you.
Okay.
Having 3 may be out of the way for me.
But how about having it on the face? Is that not too much?
Who says it's too much?
People,
Too much is a subjective thing. Just like when you eat food, 1 wrap of pounded yam may be too much for one person. Another person will eat 3 inside their tummy and it's not too much. So it's a subjective thing. So for somebody, having it all around the ear It's not too
nothing.
much.
Okay.
In fact, it's, so I don't, and because that is also not a criteria that I know of in the Sharia, I'm careful for us not to put that as a criteria to say
Well, I
it's too
think
much.
my overdoing would mean already causing yourself harm or something. I
If
mean,
you put it everywhere
you're
and it's not
disfiguring-
paining you,
Then
if
that's
it's
fine.
That's fine.
How about if it's disfiguring your skin, or maybe
if I don't see it as
develops
disfiguring,
moles
Yeah.
or something?
if it develops
Well, it
mole and I
depends on the
decide to
person.
remove it, it depends on the person.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
depends
well.
on, and if I cover it, I would even know there's a mole there. So.
Well, the faces, you don't cover the faces.
People cover their faces.
Yeah.
Well, the ones that do it now don't cover their faces. The ones who have it here, the ones who have it on
A
the
lot
tongue.
of people who have it there cover their faces. Trust me.
Yeah.
People,
So
they cover it.
Okay.
sometimes I think it's based on the culture of the society.
Exactly.
It's normal
Yes,
to
your
some,
culture.
and to some it's not
Not
normal.
normal, exactly.
Yeah, and so that's why it's advisable for people to not judge people based on what they see
Exactly.
or based on just ethnicity or something.
Because it's a subjective
yeah,
thing.
until you
Look,
have
if
a
you
proof.
see the Somalians,
Yes. They do a lot of piercing.
you'll be like,
Really?
these people from the bush.
And it's just normal for them.
And
maybe.
it's normal for them,
Yeah.
even from birth, they do that.
But the African culture tends to see it as something the prostitutes do.
That's
But
the thing.
especially for the
over
anklets.
there, it's not the
It's
prostitute
normal,
that
yeah.
it's
Exactly,
normal.
exactly.
Even the septum piercing is normal for them. It's not anything. So culturally, if a Somalian were to come to Nigeria now and then you're judging
Look
her,
at her strangely.
you'll be the
Yeah.
one seeing him,
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Yeah. So, dear viewers, it's still the show Deen and Dunya, and the topic is intoxicants, anklets, and piercing. So, we have our guest, and now we'll ask her to give us her advice about these things. So, what do you think?
I think we've said it. Do whatever you want to do, as far as it's halal, and as far as you've made sure that your intention is good. So you can go ahead with your piercings, go ahead with your anklets.
How about intoxicants?
But for intoxicants, if you've never taken intoxicant before, I plead with you, don't even try. Now, if you're taking and you already have an issue with it, seek treatment. And the earlier you seek treatment, the better. Because addiction has levels. There is the mild addiction, there's a moderate, and there's a severe. Now, usually when it has gotten to the severe stage, it's always pretty difficult to treat, even though it's treatable. But it's a chronic mental health issue.
Yeah.
Like when you have a chronic physical health issue like diabetes or hypertension, something that you have to constantly be watchful of treatment. So the earlier you seek treatment, the better for you. Now, you can even start with self-help treatment. There are a whole lot of smoking cessation books, alcohol addiction books, there are a whole lot of books that you can read to help you. And then you can now seek a professional to consolidate your efforts. So these days, thank God, we are having a whole lot of coaches, counselors that can even help you. Now, if it's now a moderate or severe addiction, then you definitely want to see a specialized professional like a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist or something, because sometimes for some people they will need to be put on medication to help them against their addiction.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say if you're using intoxicants, stop cold turkey. When I mean stop cold turkey, it's just stop. But if you find it difficult, so like people who use cigarette, for example, can stop cold turkey depending on the kind of the number. So you can just decide to say, okay, from today I'm not using anymore, and they just stop. A whole lot of people.
How about the withdrawal symptoms?
They'll have it, but they'll be fine. They will
Okay.
cope with it. They'll
Okay.
be fine. So some people can't stop cold turkey. Now, if you stop cold turkey and you're finding it very difficult, so your withdrawal is a problem, your craving is becoming something else, you're having tolerance issues and all that, then
Seek
seek professional help.
Yeah. Sister Halima?
Yes, for me, anklets and piercings, I'd say it's good. I don't have anything against it, but I still believe moderation is key. I mean, it is clearly stated that you should not do anything that puts you in ruin or puts you in harm's way. So for me, moderation is key. As long as it doesn't affect you, you can go ahead. But for intoxicants, it's a no-no. It's clearly stated in the Quran and supported by the Hadith and all other rulings that anything that affects your physical, your mental control of yourself is highly prohibited. So Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, but I think another important thing is, sometimes people are just out there to tell you the rulings or to like abuse people who do that or shame them or maybe sometimes even stigmatization. We know that people that are addicted to some things or that are doing some things that are bad, it's not easy for them to leave that thing. Or maybe they're even trying and people are just there to judge them. That is not right. Whatever you have to do about this, just know that Allah can test anyone. This is the test and you're a potential. Allah can just turn everything around and test you too. So please, whatever you can do about it, just encourage them, help them out, or even pray for them. Because anyone who does these things and is trying to get out of it, Allah says, قُلْ لِعِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Whatever you do, whenever you transgress any limit, any boundaries of Allah, Allah is always there to welcome you if you are going to repent sincerely. So may Allah help us all and guide us all. You can join us in the comment section for your opinions, your topics that you might want us to discuss, and also some questions if you have. And inshallah, we'll continue to bring interesting topics for you. My name is Rahma Mustafa Ghani. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.
A technically faulty events coverage is no value for money. A crispy, clear, high-definition production, live stream, or online conference is our business. iMedia Communications, the final frontier for video production services.